One of the things that's really interesting in the research on gamification, first of all, let me just define gamification. I learned a lot about this for my book because I had studied sort of the individual and how the individual could make things fun. But I wanted to also be able to write about how organizations could try to use this tool to help people overcome present bias. And a key way that organizations often try to make work fun or make goals fun is through gamification. And the definition of gamification is basically just taking game like features from leaderboards and badges and stars and levels that you'd associate with a game like Monopoly or Pokemon and bringing them in to incentivize or motivate behavior change in some other context that isn't actually a game. So that's kind of the definition. And what's interesting is that the research is pretty mixed on how effective this is, despite the fact that, given what we just talked about, present bias, you'd think adding these kinds of bells and whistles, this wrapping paper that makes something feel more like fun, disguising it and camouflaging it so that it feels like a game, seems like a great idea. And I think the challenge comes in from research by my colleagues, Nancy Rothbard and Ethan Mollick at Wharton at the University of Pennsylvania. They found that it can be really hard to make it not feel like forced fun when you are a manager and you're trying to use gamification to motivate employees to achieve a goal. They did this one experiment with a sales force where they tried to gamify sales calls, successful sales, and they, called them. Everything was around a basketball game, and there was like a bottle of champagne you won if you got more sales, and it was a layup or a jump shot, and if you got different kinds of successes, and leaderboards were added. A lot of people, it turned out, felt like this was just forced fun, and they didn't actually find it enjoyable. It was just annoying, and that could backfire. So one of the challenges with using it in an organizational setting is that you have to thread the needle and make sure it actually is inducing enjoyment and isn't just annoying. It doesn't feel manipulative, which can make things worse. One silver lining, I'll say, is that a lot of situations where we want to achieve goals ourselves, like Peloton, right? People are self-motivated to achieve that goal. You could also think of the example of something, many of the apps that use gamification, like Duolingo, which is trying to help you learn a language. There's a lot of game-like elements. I think they don't run the risk of backfiring when they use these tools as much because you are bought in, you are working towards this goal. You don't feel manipulated. You're seeing it as an engagement strategy to help you reach a shared goal. And so I think it's less of a risk in those contexts. And if you get the formula right, if you actually can use these bells and whistles, the competition to motivate people, then that can make the experience more positive. And there is some research showing that, giving people small accolades when they achieve something that they are eager to achieve themselves is motivating. It makes them feel great. They come back, they persist longer when they're getting those awards for a self-sought objective. But it's just tricky when it might feel manipulative.